Hi, I'm Joseph Crudup, and welcome to my storybook. Today, I'm gonna read this book called "Many Dies and Gone" of African Americans from slavery to freedom. I'm gonna read this book. It's a long one, so I hope it got back. It won't be long. Gonna be continuing to read part one of this book. This is the part one of this book, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's one of the best, one of my favorite books I ever seen. Many dies and gone, African America from slavery to freedom. And I hope you enjoy read this book as much as I did. So here it is. Slavery in America, Part 1. The system of human slavery came to the English colony of Virginia in America in 1619. It was August. A Dutch ship, a mail whale, traded the colony at Jamestown, Virginia. 20 20 people, 20 Nangars. The 20 were Africans stole for their homes by slave traders. They were traded to the Virginia colony in exchange for food and other supplies. This trade in human beings took place one year before the Mayflower landed the Penguins at Plymouth, Massachusetts. The Africans were made independent servants, given service for the set study of light or time, usually 7 years, to the planters or farmers who had trade for them. There were also white and Negro American industrialists in service in Jamestown, and like the Africans, they received no rags. They were bound to their owners, just as slaves were to masters. And the children of servants grew to hate their lives and began to run away. The Negro American industrialist servants knew the countryside. They were vans within the forests and find their way back to their own communities, often taking the former Africans and the white servants with them. This caused great problems for the colonists, and it wasn't long before they adopted new regulations governing the instruction of servitude. For example, in Virginia, the even increasing number of black servants were forbidden to have arms in the Maryland. By 1660, Virginia and Maryland had made the black servants slaves for life. A boy child of the slave mother inherited her status. If the mother had bought her freedom, the child was born free. It is difficult to believe, but throughout the plantation period, there were free blacks as well as slaves in the South. Their position was always unstable and dangerous, for at any time they could be sold back into bondage. The white slave owners hated and feared free blacks, who they believed set a bad example for their slaves. In the last 25 years of the 17th century, the slave trade grew by leaps and bounds. Hundreds of ships went to Africa from Europe and England to butcher inhuman beings, and nearly 50,000 Africans were shipped to America as slaves. Somerset. In 1669, a slave known as Somerset traveled from Boston, Massachusetts to England with his owner, a man called Stuart. that settled in London. 2 years later, Somerset went away. Somerset went away. He was soon caught by Stuart, but Stuart no longer wanted Somerset. The slaves seemed to have contracted the daring, running away disease to the parting town. At the time, driver Pulmonary was actually thought to be an illness. So Stuart put Sunset on a ship bound for Jamaica, where he would be sold as a slave. But the ship could sail. A religious group known as Quakers abandoned and arrested a helpless corporate and sold on the ship's captain. The word or order was a protection against unlawful underpartners. It bellowed the slave owners taking action against Somerset until the captain went before a judge or court. At the hearing, the judge said that in England, slavery could exist only by what was called positive law that had been set by the government. Since there was no such law in England, a man's freedom could not be taken away from him on the grounds that he was a slave. Therefore, said the judge, Somerset could go free. The Somerset decision was the final and most famous in a series of legal decisions declaring that any black person entering England was free. The British slave trade ended in 1807. It was unabashedly throughout the British Empire in 1833. Quaker protest. In 1688, the Relations Party of Quakers, also known as the Society of Friends, formed in protest of the American slave system. A group of friends in Town, Pennsylvania, practiced in an anti-slavery resolution. It has been called the earliest known religious protest against slavery and the trapping in man body. Now that they were black, we cannot consider them as more liberal to have than slaves. It is as it is all to have other white ones. There is a saying that we should do to all that men, like as we will be done to ourselves, making no difference of what generation, descent, or calling they are, or calling they are. And those who still wild men, and those who buy or purchase them, are they not all alike? Here's a little bit of consciousness, which is right and responsible. Here are to be likewise liberty of the body, but to bring men here, or to rob and sell them against their will. We are against. On Sunday, Governor's daughter was born at peace in 1710 in the kingdom of Bounds now in northeastern England. England. Southwest of Lake Shad. His mother was the earliest daughter of the Ringling king, Prince Oscar lived lived well and was daughter upon his by his mother and father. He wore necklace of gold and ivory and chains of gold on his ankles and wrists. The glowing jewel was the emblem of the histories and princess privilege. Economy Economy has 6 brothers and sisters who all thought him rather odd, for he often asked questions of his family that were impossible to answer. He would raise his hand to the sky, asking his mother who it was that lived up there. His mother said There was the sun, moon, and stars aboard, and nothing else. The answer made Uncle very unhappy. He was sure there was some power even greater than the sun, moon, and stars, which his family worshipped. Once, after a violent storm with sweeping in black clouds and crashing thunder, Ukazar said, "My dear mother, please tell me who is the great man of power that makes the thunder." Again, his mother told him there was no power but that of the sun, moon, and stars. These shining lights and none other have made their world. But had there other people come here? Asked Ankaza, Kusa, Yukasa. They um they came from one another, she answered, taking the prince back many generations. But who made the first man and who made the first cow, the first lion, and where does the fly come from? As no one can make him, no one can make him. But who made the first man and who made the first cow, the first lion, and where does the fly come from? As no one can make him. His brother his mother became very upset. She feared that her son had gone mad. She told his father about his questions. The father became quite angry. Quite angry. He will punish Ukasar severely. He said if he ever asked such questions again. The prince never again spoke to his mother on the subject of the man of power above. But he was deeply unhappy. He no longer wore the ghost, which was a costume of the country. Gold riding has always been his pleasure. He no longer shot his bow. He finds no satisfaction in any of his former pleasures. Both his father and mother hated seeing him so miserable. When Euconsul was 15 in 1725, a merchant came from the Gold Coast from Ghana in West Africa. He often traded with the inhabitants of Euconsul's provinces. This time he took notice of Euconsul. After inquiring about his unhappiness, the merchant convinced Euconsul's parents to allow the prince to go home with him for a visit. He has sons of his own, says the merchant, and they will make good companions for Euconsul. The merchant said the prince will go get to see the horse with wings and see them walk upon the water. Euconsul was astonished by the idea of riding horses. He was even more surprised when the merchant said, "Come see the white folks." The merchant told Euconsul's mother that he would bring her son back after he has shown him the sights. So, Euconsul's parents agreed. Perhaps this journey will take away their son's sadness and bring him back sensible and happy. Euconsul's mother decided to go with him to the edge of their territory, for she wouldn't allow him to travel so far away without failing companions at least part of the way. They set out across the desert in the caravan of the merchant. They wore camels. Euconsul's mother stayed with them for the first 300 miles. Then, convincing that her son was in safe hands, she turned back. Euconsul found the trip very exciting. As soon as night fell, the stillness was split open by the war lines. The caravan made a circle of fire, keeping the caravans, men, and equipment well within the fire range. Each daybreak, the caravan was started up again. Always there was something unusual to see. You can also look on with as they passed through a valley of miserable surrounded by high mountains. Drip with many colors of miserable, and veins of gold ran through it. The sights of the best place stay in Newcastle's thoughts long after the caravan had left it behind. As the trip continued, Newcastle found that he was not completely among friends. The mischance partner had joined the caravans and wanted to get rid of Newcastle. There was difficulty in having him along. He said, though he never made it clear what trouble he foresaw. But when the caravan came to the river, the Pandana tried to get the mischant to have Ukasa drowned. The mischant wouldn't hear to such a thing. For the remainder of the journey, Prince Ukasa failed to sleep or let down his guard in any way. But finally, after an overlord trip of the thousands of miles, they reached the coast and the mischance home. Drums beat and welcomed, and horns blew long and loud in tribute to the prince. The grandson of the king was born. Ukasa was pleased by this show of respect arrangements by the mischief and felt much relieved. But by evening, everything changed again. Two of their mischief sons came to see Ukasa. Tomorrow, you are to die. They told him that on King said they said, we had him beheaded. It's not true. It's changing Ukasa. It's selling Ukasa. I can't help to play with you and to see the rain's houses walk upon the water. Your father sent you only to spy. They replied, when you went back home, you will know things about our country, and your father will make war on us and win. That is why you will never go home. You will have your head cut off. Prince, Prince Ukasa's heart sank as his filled the walls. Then he was locked up. He thought of escaping, wondering where he would go. He was so far from home and without a friend. But then the king himself had changed of heart, rather than have him killed. The king returned him to the mischief. The mischief in turn saw Prince Ukasa to a Dutch sea captain for 2 lots of checking cloth. The mischief took Ukasa's gold wristband, necklace, and bracelets before he sent him away with the sea captain. He spoke a language Ukasa couldn't understand. However, Ukasa did understand the chains that now bound his hands and ankles, all having chains, and there was a thick one around his neck. Ukasa knew now that he could not go unless the captain said for him to go. He could do he could do nothing with his hands tied. He was no longer free. He was a slave. Now he knew. Now he knew who and what were white folks. Besides the captain, there was the man with light skin and light color hair who ran the houses with rings, which he discovered was sailing ships. They were grand and immense as they climbed up and sailed down the waves of the sea. Lucasa spent a long time on a great water. The rain sailors of the house ship bellowing against the wind. The vessels moved swiftly on the sea. It was a terrible time for Lucasa and the others who were slaves and shivering below decks without fresh air. Once the day water was drawn over them, they were forced to keep their mouths open for most of this day century. In that way, Lucasa and the others could drink and keep alive. Then came another long time and finally a stop at Barbados in the British West Indies. Lucasa, weak and weary, was taken off the ship. He was sold at the outskirts for $50 to a New York man named Van Horn. Prince Uncasa Guadalajara's life continued in slavery for many years. During that time, he learned about God in heaven, the great man of power above he has chosen for all his life, and he became quite religious. Life was difficult, but life went on. Eventually, Alfonso went to England and became free. He married and raised a family, now called James Abbott. He began to write about his sad life as pilgrims were all traveling through many difficulties, waiting for the call when the Lord shall deliver us out of the evils of this world. His autobiography was published in Bath, England in 1770 when he was 60 years old. Is it Tower? Is it Tower? Inaugurated the most remarkable particulars in the life of James Albert Reconcile Rosado, an epical prince related by himself. The Gonavasar Nicolet is very well and is one of few such sources that have been preserved. Adventist Slade and his return. In 1750, Will Brown of the Farnham, Massachusetts, put this note about his missing property as Slade in the Boston Gazette. Shortly, Cordy held his knees more nearly together than common. Had on new buskins dresses, blue lawn stockings, and Shank Waller shorts. Whoever shall take but said run away, and cover him to above said master, shall receive £10, and all masters or slaves or others are hereby cautionless against cancellation or carrying off said survey on plain law. Orland Brown's slave disappeared so completely that it was thought he must have gone to sea. Nothing was heard about him for 20 years, but on the evening of March 5th, 1770, the escaped slave, whose name was Crespo Attucks, turned up on Dock Square in Boston. At this time, there were many reports of skirmishes between colored citizens and the British troops who protected Great Britain's interest in American. Attacks who lived near the square had heard that a British soldier had beaten a lone American boy in his market, a British soldier market, full of revolutionary zeal. Attacks of organizing the crowd, the first origin the crowd in the square to have him get rid of the British soldier. Some in the crowd were sailors carrying sticks, and Attacks laid them to the Colston House on King Street, Miller County, then moved on to the center in his box. Just then, several British soldiers arrived, commanded by Captain Thomas Preston. Don't be afraid, Corpus Tots shouted. They dare not foul. They dare not foul. He said he and the crowd stood their ground. Then someone hurled a stick at the soldier. The soldier raised his musket and fired, hitting a touch in the chest. A touch fell and the crowd soldiered forward. More shots went out, and another citizen fell to the ground. In all, 5 men fell, and not one of them was a British soldier. Corpus attempts, free from borders, all these meeting jails. Now y'all dead. Now they're dead. The victim of the what later became known as the Boston Massacre. He was the first martyr of the water of the war that would come, the American Revolution. A kidnapped child, Oluna Icarus, was born in Banner, Niagara in 1745. At the age of 11, he was kidnapped from his home and sold to slave trails along the Niagara coast. From there, he was taken on a slave ship bound for Barbados in the West Indies. Lisdale recorded will write about his time on that ship. I was soon put down under the decks and was greeted by such a sturges as I had never experienced in my life. I became so sick and low that I was not able to eat, nor had the least desire to taste anything. Soon, to my grief, two of the white men offered me eatables, and on my refusing to eat, one of them held my fast by the hands and led me across. I think the wireless and tied my feet, while the other flagellated my severely. I had never experienced anything of this kind before, and in the little time after, I molested the poor chained man. I found son of my own nation. I feel I should be put to death. The white people looked and acted as I thought in so sorrowless a manner. And asked my countrymen if these white people had no country, but live in this howling place, the ship. They told me that they did not, but came from a distant one. Then how comes it in all our country we never heard of them? I asked. They told me because they lived so very far off. I asked how their vessel could go. They told me they could not tell, but that there was clothes put upon mats by the help of the boats I saw, and then the vessels went on. Economy describing the ministers in depth below decks and the disbalance and suicide above decks among the richer prisoners being strong. He survived the intensifying male pancreas, which claimed the lives of so many thousands of kidnapped Africans. After reaching America, E. Corona was sold to a Captain Pastor, commander of the ship, the industrial Stories B. Captain Pascal renamed him Gustavus Vasa and sent him to England, where Vassos became the servant for two devout women. They taught him to read the Bible. In this way, he was able to continue his education in the English language, which had begun on the Institute B. Vasa was sold and resold. He went to sea and was shipped to the West Indies. He was bought by a Philadelphia merchant at Quaker and was treated with kindness. He was allowed to earn money and pay for his freedom. Once free, Gustavus Vassa returned to England. He would work to end slavery, pretending that the British Parliament for its abolishment. His autobiography, the interesting narration of the life of the lovely increment or Gustavus Vassa, was published with great success in London in 1789. Many Africans like Vassa were captured and brought to the coasts of Africa by black and Arab slave traders and her traders. There were then then there was sold to white slave traders for good, spices, and wine. It was not unusual to find children as well as adults in chains on the slave ships or boat ships. None of the captain Africans took to their enslavement lightly. Some fought back and were killed and drawn overboard. Others, forced by the large ship sailings to stay in and across for the 8 to 10 week voyages, died by the hundreds. 30% of them did not survive the middle packers across the ocean from African and to America. African to American. Still others intending to drown themselves as soon as the ship docked. Survivors bowed with headed of the chains that bound them and of those who had carried them away. They gave care for their homelands and families and all they had known and loved. Jennings Slough. By 1770, nearly a half a million slaves were part of the popularity of the American South, and limiting at the glowing numbers. Virginia's petition the British king to stop the slave trade into American started that the bringing of slaves into the colonies helped blonde Ben considered as a trade of great inhumanity. The fundament, the fundament over equality and liberty in the pre-revolutionary war period caused many individuals to make a public outcry against slavery. How could citizens plead for freedom for themselves? Many asked, and they were those among them still in slavery. Jenny Stew was called a martyr, the name for the person having one white and one black parent. In 1766, she went to court in the Massachusetts court calling, accusing Citizens John Whippy of capturing her force in arms. 4 years early, Whipping, Whipping, she said, had held and kept her in solitude without any lawful right and authority until March 1766. She has 25 British pounds in its damage. At first, John Weapon and tribe provided there was no such person as Jenny Slew. When that didn't happen, when that didn't work, he pleaded not guilty to her complaint. The court decided in Whippy's favor. He received a judgment of £4. Jenny Slew then took her case to the Supreme Court in Salem, Massachusetts. The jury reversed the judgment, deciding in her favor. She was rewarded £4 and court costs. That's the end of this book called Many Thousands Gone. African Americans from slavery to freedom. Next time we'll begin the part two in this book called Running a Race. Running a Race. Until then, I'm Joseph Cook. I hope you had a great time. May God bless you and yours. Till then, ta-ta for now.